We have 5 times the amount of games that we had in Major League Baseball on Monday, but which of this 15-game slate should we be betting? That's what you're going to find out here live on WagerTalk TV's First Pitch. Dan Alexander here, and joining me on a Tuesday edition, like I said, a lot more games to get into here, which we're happy about. Steve Merril and Bryan Leonard in the saddle. And Steve, I always like doing things a little bit backwards, as you know. So I say we start today's show on the back end of the card with the nightcap. D-backs and Dodgers is the game you wanted to eye here right at the top. And I'll tell you what, this big price for the Dodgers, it's been customary. It's kind of what we knew we were going to have for the Dodgers coming into this year. But as you were mentioning yesterday, the official midpoint of MLB is here. And when I look at this big price, it's a little bit surprising because it's not like the form has been all that great for Miller in the last 2 starts since he returned from his 2-month stay on the injured list. I think it was a shoulder issue that he was dealing with. So it's not like we've had an incredible starting pitching, out of what they're going to be having on the bump here today. Don't get me wrong, I'm not crazy about the D-backs, but this price did kind of make me say, and I'm wondering what you thought when you looked down the board and saw this one on the back end.
Well, you know what we do with Dodger games. We've been talking about this for a couple of years. You just blindly play either the other big dog plus money on Arizona at about plus 165, or if you're going to lay the big number with the Dodgers, you get it down on the run line, and instead of laying minus 190, you're going to look at minus 1.5 plus 110, plus 105 plus 110. So here's an example. You can cut it down almost 200 cents. And instead of laying minus 190, you get it to a plus money price with the Dodgers.
Fair.
And I do think that's the preferred side in this game for a couple reasons. First of all, it's a huge step up in class for the defending National League champion Arizona Diamondbacks. And because they are the defending NL pennant winners, I don't think the Dodgers are going to overlook a division rival here. And also the Dodgers are coming in after losing 2-3 against another division rival, the San Francisco Giants, over the weekend. And it was a bad loss on Sunday, 10-4. Also lost that first game on Friday night. So I believe it's a focus spot for the Dodgers. And it's also a huge step up in class for Arizona, as yes, they enter off back-to-back wins, but they came against the bottom-happy Oakland A's, soon to be Bryan Leonard's Las Vegas A's via Sacramento for a couple seasons. And don't forget, Arizona was almost a minus 190 favorite in both of those games. So we get a big step up in class. Dodgers have underachieved a little bit this season, but this looks like a focus spot. But as is often the case with the Dodgers, when they win by margin. So if you're going to play this one, you don't lay the minus 190. I recommend the minus 1.5 plus 110 run line. And also we have seen a little bit of money come in on the over here. It was 8.5 over. We're now seeing some 9 at some of the sharper international books. Obviously, more runs help a team win by margin and win by 2 or more, which is what the Dodgers normally do when they win games.
Yeah, shout out to the chat joining us live here, or if you're watching us on the rewatch, all the games don't start until this evening, so you got plenty of time to hop below in the comments and let us know what you're looking to eye. But Tyler pointing out that Ryan Nelson, he isn't all that great. That's what kind of took me off of this game because, again, Bobby Miller, I haven't loved what I've seen from him. But, if there's a guy who can probably have some positive regression towards his form, it is a guy like Miller. And Ryan Nelson doesn't really do much for me. I wanted to talk myself into the Dodgers the D-backs in the first 5, but there just wasn't enough for me to do it. So I'm with Steve. It's lay it or pass in this game. Have Cash, G Hurt, we appreciate you joining us here live on the YouTube channel a little bit earlier of the edition. We like getting you that actionable info right up at the top while you're hanging with us. Hit that like button, and if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. If you're on a different social platform, make sure you hit that follow button as well. All right, Bri, you want to take a look at this Baltimore and Seattle game, and for Baltimore, they got to start the month with a little bit of rest, which they didn't really have much rest last month, but they'll be kicking off July here, facing off against a pretty decent opponent, the AL West leading Seattle Mariners, and they're leading for now because they've been stumbling as of late. I look at this one, and this is a pretty decent pitching matchup here for the starters, Rodriguez and Kirby. So you think this one might be setting up, at least for the starters, as a bit of a pitcher's duel? How are you looking to bet this one, Brian?
Well, the lines maker thinks so. He's got it at 7, and it hasn't moved. And I could see that. I've talked in the past about Seattle with the with the backdrop there, it's uneven, so a lot of players have a hard time hitting it home. I'm hoping that's the case tonight, as I like this game to go under. Grayson Rodriguez, if you take a look at his starts this year, he's been much better at home than he has been on the road. But this is a very good pitcher's ballpark, and we've seen from Seattle, they've got probably the best 1-5, 1-6 starting lineup for pitching rotation in Major League Baseball. They know how to play here from a pitching standpoint. Baltimore, I like this Baltimore bullpen's getting better all the time. I expect this game to go under, and I think Rodriguez will pitch one of his better road games of this season. We've seen very much similar for Seattle with George Kirby gone. He's a guy that just doesn't put anybody on base. Take a look at his walk percentages in his rookie season: 4.1. Last year, 2.5. This year, 2.3. And when you pitch in a stadium like this where he does here, where you don't get a lot of runs scored, the less people you put on the base, the better. One thing you don't want to do is put people on base where they could steal. And with these new bases they've had the last couple of years, I'm really surprised stolen bases haven't been more of a concern this year. If you go back and look at last year, beginning of the season, they were stealing like crazy. And then it stopped. What changed? I don't understand it. I think most of the teams that I've found that have overachieved this year are teams that are willing to run. Certain teams aren't. And I think that's a drawback when you don't run. But I like this game to go under. Two quality pitchers in a tough hitting environment.
Yeah, it makes a heck of a lot of sense to me. When I was running down the card, that was the first thing that stood out to me, was not only the pitching matchup, but then you extrapolate that over to the number, and the fact that it is just staying pat at that key number. You can make the case for either side. I'm with Bryan. The stronger case for me, looking towards that under. Hop below in the comments. Let us know what you're looking to bet here today. Steve, it's nice that we get to follow up on some of the things that we talked about yesterday, since you joined us for our first official 11 a.m. edition, and a game that we touched upon. Well, we touched upon every game, since there were three of them, was that Mets and Washington game. And man, that was a stone cold under until extras happened. And then what was it? The runs came fast and furious after that point. Unreal seeing that explosion there late. It's Manaea and Hers in this one. And basically you're looking at the same prices they threw up there yesterday. So obviously thoughts on the James Woods and how you think maybe we can be betting game two here.
Yeah, Dan, you'll be happy to know, and Brian will be happy too. After we spoke yesterday, I called and got my 37 tickets for the July 4th game between the Mets and Nats. So I will be in attendance here in a couple days. Hopefully James Wood will be in the lineup for that game, as I'll be with a 12-year-old all-star team. And we are looking forward to seeing one of the best future players in baseball. And I was watching this game live last night to see him bat six. He got up in the second inning, 1-2 count, and he works them, fouls it off, and then gets a base hit. It was a pretty cool start to his career. And then they ground into a double play with them on third. So it would have been at least a run that inning. I turned the game off. It's 0-0 after the second inning. I'm thinking my over bet is in some trouble. And like you said, Dan, never in doubt. When you put up 10 runs in extra innings, it sure helps the over. They got over the total in the extra innings alone, as it was only 9 for the game. And that's the beauty with the modern day new extra innings rules. And Brian brought up a great point, by the way, about stolen bases. I still, Brian, don't understand why teams don't run more. It drives me crazy. Not only are the bases a little bit bigger, but keep in mind the pitchers can only throw over a couple times. I think you make them throw over that first time. I don't know why you don't run every time after that. It's a huge mathematical edge, in my opinion. And it's yet another thing that's wrong with modern day baseball. It's all launch angle. Nobody cares about hitting singles or stealing bases. We'll see if Moneyball ever makes its way back around. These two teams are red hot offensively. The Mets are the hottest offensive team in baseball. So Met team total, once again, would be worth a look. We check the WagerTalk live odds screen. We see that there's 9s for the game. Team totals are 4.5 and 3.5. Wouldn't argue against either team total over in this one.
Brian, for you in this one, whenever I want to hear about dogs or cats for that matter, I go over to Brian Leonard's page at WagerTalk because I refer to you often as the dog whisperer. You love those plus money prices. It's a great way to boon your bankroll, especially in a sport like MLB. The thing about the Mets is, yes, they're winning, but they're always seemingly winning in the most insane and chaotic ways possible. Like they almost blew that lead in the 10th with all those runs that were coming across. And then a base running mishap was kind of the difference maker for them. But now they're battling with something that they have struggled with all year. And that's getting over the 500 mark. If they can finally just break that watermark. So any thoughts here, hers and the dog? I know the team total makes a heck of a lot of sense for either of these teams if we think we're going to get the same kind of production that we got. But that plus 120 around that, could I interest you in that, or is it Mets or pass for you?
It's a tough one for me. Hers has looked good. Well, he had that one game where he just an outstanding strikeout rate. But if you take a look at all of his numbers, his strike to ball ratio doesn't show that he should have been able to get that many strikeouts. So I have some concerns there. I think he's a little overrated. Manaea is a guy who he's been a fringe starter. Other times they've used him as a long reliever. So he's not one of the guys I like to back either. I'd prefer the over if we played anything here. We're looking at 9. I think it's in the 15 range, minus 115. That's probably the way I'll go. And as for Woods yesterday, I didn't realize how fast he was. He flies around like the Cincinnati shortstop. I mean, the guy's got great speed along with great power. He just things are really looking up in Washington, and they've still got Cruz and some other guys in the minors too. So the future's very bright there. But I don't have enough on that game to play it myself today.
All right, well, guys, then we'll swing to another game here because before we were ever even live here, we had folks lining up in the chat, dropping in their plays. Like Tyler pointed out, I think the chat covered like half of these 15 games before we even hopped on air. So they're ready to talk some baseball. And one of the ones that I saw kept coming up as we were getting ready here was Javi Cash specifically. He was looking to back the Padres. And I jokingly commented back to him, was just like, you don't have to tell me twice that we're fading Texas. Even with Eovaldi on the mound, that's been a spot that I just looked at sometimes the quotes from Bochy and tried to find the spots that you really think they're just not really being able to find which way is up. Steve, if there's any team that's hoping for a better back half of the season versus expectation coming into the year, it's this Rangers side, but they're going to have to try and start it off here at home against a team who's quietly won 8 of their last 10. So the Padres, they're kind of finding that form that they had been searching. So how do you see this one? Because I think it's actually a pretty interesting handicap.
Yeah, these could both be 2 play-on teams. The difference is I need to see it first from Texas before they become a play-on team. And I've seen reasons for San Diego to be a play-on team. Let's start with the Rangers. They're currently 8 games below 500. They're 8 games back in the division. They're only minus 10 runs on the season, so that would equate to about 2 games below 500. So they are a little bit better than their overall record, but they're the defending World Series champs, and they sure aren't playing like that. One of the reasons I was very bullish on the Rangers, the 2 teams I was bullish on last year were the Marlins and Rangers. They both had huge breakout seasons last year, stayed away from them this year, and they both have regressed. But we've talked about some of those rule changes, like bigger bases, more stolen bases. I thought both the Rangers and Marlins and the D-backs, by the way, would benefit from that last year. And look who made the World Series. Texas and Arizona both have underachieved this year. But also both teams benefited from the shift being outlawed as they had some good left-handed hitters in their lineup, especially Texas. I don't know what's changed this year. They've just come back down to earth. Meanwhile, San Diego's a team I've talked about a lot the last couple of months. I mentioned I like to look at road numbers for statistics because it encompasses all different types of ballparks. And San Diego is one of those better examples because they have a somewhat pitcher-friendly park in Petco. Maybe not as much as it's been recently, but San Diego's home numbers were much weaker offensively than the road numbers this year. But we've seen that start to turn around. They still remain one of the top 2 or 3 offensive teams on the road this year. So I've been bullish. Padres are now 4 games above 500, and they're actually plus 34 runs, which should be 6 games above 500. So 2 play-on teams for me, but right now the Padres have won 8 out of 10. I just can't trust the Rangers until I see them turn that corner.
How about you, Brian? Because I'm kind of with Steve on that one. It's like I want to jump in, but both of these teams coming off a rest, starting off a new month, both of them maybe hoping that they have better days ahead of them, especially in the case of the Rangers there. So I don't know if this game one is really where I want to jump in. Maybe this is more of a learning game, maybe a live bet for me. How do you see this one shaping up?
Yeah, I agree. It would be Padres or nothing for me. Dylan Cease has been very good this year. Real nice season for him in San Diego. Texas has just been a team, I didn't realize how poor Simeon's been this year. He's only got 5 stolen bases. He's just not the player he's been in the past. And when he's your veteran leader, he's a guy bats, first or second just about every game. That comes back, and that's a major problem. Now, obviously, their rookie is hitting a lot better than he did earlier. That's something that is really coming on for them. But that's why Langford. So he's starting to come around. So they're having, Corey Seager got hit the other day, and he's having a good season, but he just continues to struggle. Adolis Garcia, every once in a while he'll hit a home run, but now age is starting to be a concern for him too. So the problem you have with Texas is their younger guys, like I said, Langford's coming around now. Some of their other younger guys haven't played well, so they've got to play like Robbie Grossman, Travis Jankowski. So I'm not a big believer in the Texas offense right now. I'd prefer San Diego in that matchup until the Rangers veterans can get it together.
Yeah, and Robert in the YouTube Shorts feed pointing out, and more anecdotal than anything, but it definitely feels true, is that when it's good pitching, when it's quality pitching, that's when the Rangers bats really fall silent. Robert saying Rangers can't hit good pitchers. If you agree with Robert, scroll on up a little bit, because Jeremy saying Dylan Cease most strikeouts on the day. It's a prop offered there over at the Blue Book. Plus 800 is the swing that our man Jeremy is throwing out there. You think Dylan Cease is going to have a good outing? Most strikeouts of the day. Look for our man Jeremy over on the YouTube Shorts feed. We appreciate you chiming in. They also chimed in, guys, over on the YouTube feed. JT saying, Dan the man, our Trubisky doppelganger. I have gotten that many a times, the Mitchell Trubisky player comp. I was telling them in the chat when I actually visited Chicago and I didn't have all this long flowing mane. I had multiple people when I was on the pier come up to me and ask me for a photo, thinking that I was Mitchell Trubisky. I completely played along. I was like, "Yeah, I love my fans." So it was a fun time playing Mitchell Trubisky out there. I of course bring that up so I can segue. Chicago plays Philadelphia. Look at that, Steve. I brought up my Phillies without even going with a Phillies lead. That's got to be some impressive stuff. I should get a few likes for that, folks. But Steve, as Philadelphia is going to be starting off the year here, or the month here in July, they're going to be starting without Bryce Harper, without Kyle Schwarber, and we've already been without JT Realmuto, or they've already been without JT Realmuto. And then you have Mercado going on the mound. We did see one inning of action for Mercado, and it was a perfect inning against the Detroit Tigers, at least. But if there's a team that I'm just scratching my head how they will respond, because it's the first series we're seeing them starting without their stars. We saw them battle back when the injuries happened in their most previous one, but how do the Phillies move forward from this? And they have to start it on the road against the Cubs. What are you thinking about this one, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of uncertainty for your Philadelphia Phillies, right? And
Yep.
By the way, that was a great segue. You should host a baseball show. I'm gonna get you hosting a baseball. Wait a second.
yeah. Put that. But yeah, get a
camera there. You got a voice for newsprint and a face for radio, Dander. I love it. So, let me ask you right now: if you blindly play your Phillies in the month of July, you going to make money or lose money, Dan? What do you think?
I mean, all the logic in the world, Steve, says you're going to lose money. You know what I mean? Right. Because you just look at all those injuries. You look at that the pitching regression has already started to show itself, but the way that they win and they keep winning keeps flying in the face of logic. So I want to say lose money, but I feel like it ends up being Beatty because somehow, some way they persevere with all of these injuries, which keeps me scratching my head.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. But of course, the great equalizer in basketball and football is the point spread, right? You can be a terrible team, but have a winning
True.
point spread record. The great equalizer for the month. Now, we're not talking about wins and losses. We're talking about money won, right? The great equalizer is the money line here over the next 30 days. And I'm wondering if we're starting to see that group think because, look, they're a dog tonight, right? Best team in baseball is a $1.10 underdog. Right. So we might actually make money with the Phillies because all they have to do is somewhat play decent if they're going to start giving us prices like this. Now, part of the reason is because Michael Mercado's on the mound, as you mentioned. He's only made one appearance in the majors. So let's pull up his AAA numbers from the International League this year. He started 10 of his 14 appearances, 1.7 ERA, opposing batting average of 189, 1.1 whip. He was fantastic in the minors, 44 strikeouts. In 47 innings. He doesn't have a lot of power. I think that's the concern. Less than a strikeout in inning in AAA is not going to get it done. But he didn't give up many runs. He only gave up 2 home runs in 47 innings. I like maiden starters, and I think we are definitely getting some line value here. I do agree the Phillies are shorthanded offensively, so would not talk anybody out of it under 9.5. I have not checked the wind, though. That total makes me think the wind might be blowing out. So you can throw it to Bryan here, and I'll pull up the weather in a moment.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that weather for sure. How about you, Bryan? What do you think about my my Phils heading here into the month of July? Because like Steve, I think this could be a rough one for him. Now, in the case of Harper and Schwarber, you may actually see them back before the All-Star break, but it'll at least be 10 days, a minimum for our man Harper. So again, sure, the lineup seems to always pick it up. Castellano maybe picks it up a little bit. You see some other guys hitting, but the other shoe has to feel like it's dropping here. And it already has started, at least for the pitching and the back end of that bullpen, who's been surrendering some runs late here. I think you're muted, Bryan.
Cat has his tongue.
That's a good line, Steve. That's
well a great done. Line.
The cat's driving me crazy today. I had to mute myself. Sorry about that.
Yeah, but the
wind's blowing out.
No worries.
The wind's blowing out 14, 15 miles an hour left to right. And then as the game goes on, it's supposed to be going more towards center. That's obviously a concern. Neither one of these pitchers have many opportunities so far. Mercado's only had 2 batted ball experiences so far this year. So we really don't know what we're going to get out of him. And as I mentioned last time I was on, the difference from going from AAA to the majors now is bigger than it's ever been because of that lost year of COVID. So we're seeing a lot of these guys struggle. Now, he is a right-hander. I like to follow left-handers when they come up because you know even less about them and you don't see as many left-handers. But he is a right-hander, so that he could be hit here. Wisnowski's going for Hayden Wisnowski for the Cubs. He is another guy that they don't know what to do with him. One minute I read something where he may be used as the closer because they're having closer problems with Neris over there. But then again, they put him in as a starter. I figure he's only going to go a couple innings. Well, last time he went farther than that. So who knows what they're using for him. He's a guy that's searching for a role right here. But with the way the wind's blowing in that stadium, I think the over would be the way that I would look here. Neither one of the guys has proven anything to me yet, obviously, with Mercado just making his first major league start here. So let's see how that one goes. But you may not see as many home runs out of Philadelphia, but they still have some very good hitters on this team. You mentioned Castellanos and Bryson Stott, and Trey Turner's terrific. So they still got plenty of offense. So I like this game a little bit over.
Going towards the over, seeing some runs, and as Bryce said, winds blowing out there a little bit. Hey, shout out to the folks joining us live over there on our TikTok channel. That's right. You never know where you're going to find WagerTalk. If you are watching us there live on TikTok, would love if you could show me who helped us out getting to our goal of 5,000 followers. That's right. We rolled on over there to TikTok and it has been blowing up. So we appreciate you joining us over there. Show us if you're one of the ones who followed us in helping get us over that hump of 5K. Guess what's coming next? That's 10K for you over there on TikTok. And hey, you can drop your comments in there as well. We're watching all the channels to get you the info that you know and love. Whether you're joining us on the YouTube feed, we're on X, we're on Instagram, and now we're blowing up on TikTok as well. That's right. It's the year of WagerTalk coming your way. Just dog days of summer? Nope, not for us here. We're getting you that info you know and love around the clock. Guys, Steve, one thing I wanted to bring up with you, since it was a game that we were talking about yesterday, and it was fading the Canadian team on Canada Day, worked out well for us. I mean, it was a little bit sweaty there until things got put out of sorts there in the ninth. But not many runs coming across, which was kind of what we expected. But now the bounce back, the market saying it's coming with Berrios on the mound for Toronto. They're taking on Spencer, don't call me Spaghetti, Arrighetti. And I'm wondering how we're looking to bet this. Are we getting the 2 games up in this 4-game set for Houston? Or do you think the bounce back little zigzag spot in this 4-game series is the way to bet it? Or are we just taking that out of account and going with the total? What do you think, Steve?
Or as Brian Leonard would appreciate, Mark Zinno said, "Don't call me Dave Rigetti," from our 1980s Yankees.
That's strong
Dan
as well.
might be a little too young to remember that. Although Dan knew Gallagher, I still don't know quite how old Dan is.
I'm an old soul, Steve. I'm an old soul.
About to get married, so he's got to be young. But then again, he knew Gallagher, so he's got to be a little bit older. He knows all these other 80s references. I'm trying to think he's an alien, but we'll figure that out. Yeah, look, this it's always good to fade Canadians on Canada Day. They're very distracted. I'm not trying to be Canadians were in the game yesterday, but it still is a distraction, obviously. No, we talked about this yesterday. I said one of the biggest money burners in baseball this year has been the Blue Jays. In fact, the only team who's lost more units against the money line this year than Toronto is the Chicago White Sox. So that's saying something. Blue Jays are down over 13 units now for the season. Houston, meanwhile, was one of the biggest money burners when the season started. But even with that terrible start, they still won 2 out of 3 in early April against the Blue Jays and beat them 18-0 in the 2 wins, lost a 2-1 game. So they've had their number this season. They've now won 3 out of 4, and they are playing their best baseball of the season, where Toronto continues to struggle. So be Houston or pass for me till I see otherwise.
Any thoughts for you on this one, Bri? As far as Houston is concerned, we're just riding the fade in the Canadian squad there, and yet Canadians are distracted on Canada Day. I think that's why we were talking behind the scenes. Prez has WagerTalk today all kinds of screwed up. So stick around in 30 minutes true. And see whatever the hell happens.
Prez is never
whatever the hell
on
happens on that show.
Yeah. He's never
honestly, that's more part.
4 days.
Yeah, that's more par for the course than anything on that one. But yeah, stick around. Next 30 minutes, WagerTalk today going live, the return of Prez. So you know that's going to be a bit of a shit show. So you want to hang around for that. Get ready for Teddy to yell at him. But Bri, as far as this game is concerned, and then we're going to touch upon this Red Sox game before we get some best bets for the folks. Any thoughts here in this one? You agree with Steve? Because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why don't we just keep rolling with Houston, who's kind of found their way as well?
Yeah, I would go Houston or nothing here, and I'll blame it all on Prez. I've done hockey shows with him, and this year the Maple Leafs were the one team that I struggled with. Well, it looks like the Toronto Blue Jays are the team that I'm struggling with, because I think out of my last 10 losses, 3 of them have been on the Blue Jays. And Arrighetti's had some nice starts, but overall he's been a little bit inconsistent, as you would see from a young player. But I like the Houston offense. The Houston offense is coming along right now, and Guerrero didn't play the last 2 days. He got hit by a pitch in his hand, so that's your best bat in Toronto. Especially, he's been hot as hell the last 2 months. Last month and a half. So without him in the lineup, which I haven't seen yet today, I don't think he's going to play. From what I've read, I don't want this Toronto team. It'd be Houston or nothing for me.
So Steve going to be talking Angels and A's coming up in his best bet. Bri is going to go to his Cleveland Guardians taking on the Chicago White Sox. So best bets right around the corner. While you're hanging out with us, make sure you smash that like button. If you're over on TikTok, X, or Instagram, make sure you follow and hop below in the comments and let us know if you have followed. We love hearing from our new followers, and you can ask us any questions you'd like us to hit on there as well on those platforms. And I haven't forgotten about you, Old Faithful, our friends in the YouTube chat, Chuck Pod, DT, Have Cash, B. Reed joining us late, Robert McCormick. We got Lori Bear over on the YouTube Shorts feed, Bo Dunn Sports. We appreciate you tuning in regardless where you're doing it from. And ease of access, you can get us on your mobile devices, your desktop, wherever the hell you want to get us. You can get us here at WagerTalk. All right, last game we'll talk before best bets, Boston and the Miami Marlins. We had someone asking about us to touch upon this one, so we got you there over on the YouTube feed. Cutter Crawford and Beloso going to be on the mound for Miami in this one. I get it. It's against the Marlins. Big price here for Boston, who they really took no pun intended, they parlayed a decent May into a really strong June, and now they'll hopefully start it off for July for Red Sox fans. Bri, any thoughts on this one? Because I want to back the favorite, but the price kind of keeping me away from that one.
That's exactly what I thought too. I don't know anything about Beloso, so I have nothing to add there. But Carter Crawford's pitching very well. And the only problem is the line's too high. As an underdog player, I would have to be on Miami, but since I don't know anything about their starter, I'll have to sit it out and watch the game, maybe learn something. But Cutter Crawford's pitching very well, but there's no way I could lay this line on the road here with Boston.
And Steve, before we do our best bets here, our man Daryl Turner saying, I like the over in the Red Sox, a question mark. He's not sure if he likes the over or the finger just slipped, but like Ron Burgundy, I'll read anything that is on the prompter there. So I'm Mitch Trubisky. Over in this one would make sense if we didn't have maybe Miami on the other side, but they've been, right around that 500 at least. In the last 10 as far as hitting their overs, hitting their team total overs. So, we've kind of seen some split action as far as the total goes. How do you see this game shaking out? Any opinion on the total for DT and his question marks?
That's what makes you a great host, man. You just read that teleprompter. You don't let it sway your opinions. That's how it should be. Saw a great clip the other day that I think it was from Anchorman. It was Will Ferrell without a shirt on, is drinking milk. He's like, it's so hot out. Why did I drink milk?
Milk was a bad choice.
That's what it was. Milk was a bad choice. Great line. Oh, the Marlins are never a good choice. Drew Martin's, Joe Ranieri's Miami Marlins, not Kelly Stewart's Miami Marlins. I forgot she's a Rays fan now. This is actually a game I was going to maybe use as a free play at the end here. I'm going with a different one instead. But the reason I was looking at this, Dan, because it's the first game and we have a road favorite, right? And it's an interleague game, which means I think the Red Sox will be a little more focused. People go down to Miami, especially National League teams that play them all the time, and it's nobody there. You're in Miami. Maybe the Red Sox get distracted from being in Miami for a rare opportunity to partay, and hopefully they did not partay too much last night on the night off. But otherwise, I think it's a focused spot for Boston that will not overlook a bottom feeder and a chance to get off to a good start. And one of the reasons the Rangers and the D-backs and the Marlins are probably struggling this year is because they overachieved last year. Nobody's overlooking them. So I'd like Boston in this one. I'd like to play the better team as road favorites in games one. It's an angle that always kind of makes my short list.
Love that. And if you appreciate the breakdowns, check these guys out over at WagerTalk.com. We got a great special going for the 4th of July. You can get 7 days of all access for just $7 a day. That's right. Lock these guys in for the week. You can get it at your favorite cappers page. You can get it for multiple cappers as well. You can go check that out. WT.buzz/odds has all the details, or just do a little screenshot. You grab it right there. $7 a day. A hell of a deal. Get your action for your barbecuing. You can sound smart to all your buddies while you're grilling up in the backyard saying, yeah, I just cashed on a dog that nobody else bet on because I bought Bryan Leonard. So that's the way to do it, folks. Check these guys out over at WagerTalk.com. Speaking of which, guys, let's give the folks some best bets for free here. But Bryan, also let them know what they'll find over at your page for that 7-day special. And I'm a little bit surprised, though, because you're looking at the Chicago White Sox and Cleveland. Cleveland, the big favorite at home, and one of these teams that really should be talked about like the class of Major League Baseball in the case of Cleveland, largely thanks to that bullpen. But for your wager, you're taking your Cleveland Guardians bullpen out of it, and it might not be what folks expect. What do you got over at Wager Talk, and how are we looking to bet this one?
Yeah, so far I've got 4 plays up. We haven't talked about any of those games on the show today, so you're getting 4 additional plays. We're 21, 6, and 1 now on our 3% or higher. I have one of those going on for today. But yeah, get the whole day, get the week. It's a great special. Number 2 in net profit since May 1st in Major League Baseball. And we did pass yesterday on that smaller card, but I do like some of these games on today's card. Yeah, we're going to take a look at my hometown Cleveland Indians, Guardians, whichever you prefer. Carlos Carrasco. Love the guy. He's battled back from lymphoma. He's one of the most liked players on the team. The only problem is he's just not very good anymore. Unfortunately, Carrasco, in every game that he's pitched this year, he's either been blown up or should have been blown up if the opposition did what they should have done in those games. So it's tough for me to back Cleveland, especially as you mentioned, the bullpen is so much better than Chicago's bullpen. And Class A has not pitched, so he's raring to go out there. So they're going to be, their entire back of their bullpen will be ready. Big advantage, Cleveland there, which is why we're going to the first half of this game. I'm going to fade Carrasco in that first half. Now, Chris Flex is not a guy that I like to back on a normal basis. He's just a journeyman pitcher. But to be able to get this price in the first 5 innings with Carrasco on the mound, I think is just a bargain. And so I like Chicago in the first half of this game. We're getting them at a really nice price. Not as good as full game, but the bullpen in the second half of the game is such an advantage for Cleveland over Chicago. I'm going first half, and I wouldn't surprise, you could either play Chicago first half runs over, maybe both teams runs over, based because I said Flexen's not that good of a pitcher. I see lots of runs scored here in this first half of this one, but I think Chicago gets to Carrasco as a nice underdog price.
Wow, somewhere, our man Adam Traeger is having one single tear of joy going down his face, hearing somebody else other than him backing the White Sox. But we're doing it in the first 5. White Sox money line, nice plus money price against your Cleveland Guardians there. Wow, I didn't see that one coming, but I like it. I like taking a swing on that one. Steve, I already mentioned that terrific special that we got rocking over at WagerTalk.com, getting that 7 days of all access for just $7. What can folks find when they partner with you for that deal? And how do we bet this battle of the Angels and A's? Good news for the Angels, at least they're not having to play at home, because that's been the real issue. And better news, they get to play the Oakland Athletics. So you got to be excited about that. Is that the way we're looking in this one, Steve?
Yeah, 2 bottom feeders in the AL West, but I do think there's an edge with one of these teams in a basic pick-em game, and I'll give you that free play in just a moment. Don't forget, I have a bonus free play. Another late-night game is going to be posted for free for everyone on my page today at WagerTalk.com, along with my daily baseball best bets. And, of course, you can get single plays for $25. You can get the daily package for $39 and get the all-inclusive. Or how about another 6 days for just $10 more? That's right. Instead of buying 1 day for $39, get 7 days for $49. And that is half price off the normal weekly rate. It's our July 4th, week of July 4th special, because you can do it anytime this week. Sign up for a 7-day. You get an instant half price, 7 days for just $49. That's every baseball best bet I release for the next 7 days and nights. We won again yesterday. We are red hot in baseball. I believe it's now 18-7 and longer term 23-9 over the past month in all sports. You can get 7 days for just $49, including my strong baseball best bets tonight on Tuesday and a bonus free play. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. Get there quicker with that promo code, or that shortcut code rather, WT.buzz/SM. No promo code needed for the 7 days for $49. All right, game that was just a bit outside for making the cut. I always, as I said earlier, like to look at road favorites in the first game of a 3-game series because I think they're the better team and they're focused. Now, the Angels are only a slight $10, $15 favorite, so they're not really probably a road favorite here, but I have no problem fading one of the worst teams in baseball. And Oakland doesn't have the worst record. They're not the worst money burner. But by the end of the season, they very well might be, because it's still a terrible team. They're a lame duck team that has surprisingly been okay at home this year, 18-23, but they have no home field advantage. They get no fans. They're on their way to see Bryan, Leonard and company in Las Vegas via Sacramento in the near future. The Angels, meanwhile, as you hinted, Dan, have actually been better on the road this year. They have 5 less losses on the road this year, just as many wins. than at home. And the other thing that jumps out too is when they play losing teams, they don't miss the opportunity to win. In fact, they are 16-9 this year versus winning teams. Meanwhile, they're 18 games under 500 against above 500 teams. So 16-9 against winning opponents. They're also actually playing their best baseball of the season. They entered this game in good current form. They've been in good current form for about a month now, and they have now won 6 of their last 7. They only lost by a single run. Meanwhile, Oakland has lost 8 of their last 10, not playing good. 2 teams heading in opposite directions, and we get the better starter on the mound tonight as well. Soriano has gone at least 7 innings or 6 innings or more in every one of his last 5 starts. He went 8 innings in his last outing, and meanwhile, Mitch Spence is very dicey. I like the Angels here, minus $1.10, minus $1.15 for Tuesday night. And don't forget, a bonus free play and my best bets are at WagerTalk.com, along with the 7-day special. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
Steve going with the Angels money line free best bet for you here on First Pitch. Bryan going with the Chicago White Sox in the first 5, getting the plus 155 take back price. If you appreciate these guys running down the board for you, hop below in the comments. Let us know what you're looking to eye. Shout them out. Give them a little thanks. And while you're down there, hit that like button as well. If you're joining us on TikTok, X, or Instagram, make sure you hit that follow button and also share the page with folks. We're going to continue to grow and get you the info that you know and love. If you're watching us on YouTube, you don't have to go far to keep getting that info because Wager Talk today coming your way right around the corner live. If you want to stay here, check out the video on your screen. Check out the links in the description below to find some single game videos and MLB action, WNBA best bets, Euro, Copa America, whatever you need. We got it here at Wager Talk TV. Big thanks to Bryan. Big thanks to Steve Merril. I've been Dan Alexander, and we will see you locked and loaded right back here, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. on that West Coast. Locked and loaded for First Pitch. We'll see you then. Best of luck, everyone.